Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello again. So, thank you. Thank you to Thunder Valley and this program that Decora is taking on. I think this is really awesome. Um, this is our last presentation. And like she said, can you believe it? It's our last one already. Um, I'm from Cheyenne River in South Dakota, Cheyenne River Indian Reservation. My family comes from uh, Cheyenne River, Yankton Res, which is the Ihanktawan Nakota people, Sisitawa, which is Dakota. So I'm from the whole res. No. So my background is in nutrition. I have a master's in nutrition, so I tend to always go to lean towards the nutrition part. So we'll include some of that today as well. Um, we'll just jump right into it. I have a PowerPoint that I need to set up, so we could start there. There we go. You guys seen that?
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to share these plant the way it looks. So on my left, you could see it kind of looks like a rosette. That would be a first year plant. And then the one on the other side, on my right, that would be the second year plant, where they have that long stem in the middle where the flowers grow. And then the little box on the bottom there is a close-up. And I put that there because you could see that it looks kind of furry. And beware, those of you who spend time outside and in nature, you probably know this already, but those of you who don't, this is not the plant for toilet paper. So if you ever, if that's ever a situation you're in, do not use mullein. And the reason why is because mullein has those where it looks kind of furry. Those are like little tiny, tiny needles. So you don't want to use that for toilet paper. So we'll talk more about the one on the rosette one later, but I just wanted you to see pictures of what it looks like. Now we go into the medicinal and nutritional benefits. So it's got flavonoids, which are antioxidants, which is really, really important. Those of us who don't know, antioxidants is what keeps every cell in our body from breaking down. And there's a lot of things that cause that. When our cells break down, we get, you'll see it in a clear picture of it in smokers, because smokers will tend to have a lot of wrinkles in their face. And that's a good example of your cells being broken down, because the chemicals in cigarettes, that's what they do. They break down our cells. And that's a clear example of that. So antioxidants prevent that from happening. They keep our cells intact. So there's no oxidative stress. They also reduce inflammation, which is key. Inflammation is leading to all kinds of diseases. When we end up in the hospital and you do some research on whatever illness you may have or whatever disease, inflammation is involved. And then the phytochemicals, one of them is saponins or saponins, that helps loosen the phlegm and again reduce inflammation. Mucilage, it's a gelatinous substance that helps soothe when our mucous membranes get irritated in our throat and our lungs, this this has, that's what the gelatinous substance does, is it soothes those areas. And then the vitamins and minerals, they are present, but not in a whole, there's not a whole lot of them in there. Got vitamin C, iron, calcium, and potassium. And then I found this, um, which was interesting, that Mullein works on our brain's cough center, which is in our brain stem. And so it connects to the nerves elsewhere, including in our respiratory system. So I thought that was interesting to include, that it actually does a whole, the healing is real. And that's the thing that is important to understand, is when we use the plants in nature, they're going to heal us. Their action isn't temporary. It isn't instant. And unfortunately, when we're sick, we're like, oh, I want to be well now. And we go buy all the stuff that we can over the counter. And sometimes they provide that instant relief, but they don't provide the healing, the core of the illness or disease isn't reached. And the good thing about plants is that's what they do. It may take a little longer, but they definitely offer the healing that we're looking for. So here's another picture. This plant, you could see the flowers on there, and the whole plant is medicinal, from the flowers to the leaves to the root. And so I'll show you a couple things today that you can do with the leaves. I actually went out today and got some leaves. Oh, cripes, now what? It's not moving. Down here maybe? There we go. So here's some benefits. Mullein is an expectorant, which helps the body expel excess mucus. So when you're using it, expect to be coughing that stuff up, which is part of the healing, right? It's also a demulcent, which creates a soothing anti-inflammatory coating over our mucous membranes. And both of these are important in soothing the irritation of the lungs and the throat and the bronchial passages. I learned a lot of this when I went to, I think I mentioned this last time. I went to Utah and learned from a wildcrafter out there. And she's been doing it all her life. She started when she was a young girl. And it was really interesting because she depended a lot on her intuition. And so if she felt like it was going to heal a certain part, or then she went for it. And as she got older, she started doing the research and stuff, and found out that her intuition was pretty right on. But one of the things that she said about Mullein is it actually can regenerate lung tissue. And so smoking it on the daily, or inhaling, for what she said was when you're smoking it. And I'll show you how we do that in a minute. But I wanted to share the recipe for making tea, which is just like making any other tea. You just, have your plant product and you put it in hot water, and on this one, you strain through a coffee filter. That way you get all those little hairs out of there. Because for some people, for many, it doesn't even bother us. But for some people who are sensitive, those hairs could, bother their esophagus or their throat or whatever. So use a coffee filter when you're making your tea. You're straining the Mullein out. And there's a list of all, how it can treat. It can treat asthma, cough, common cold, bronchitis, and COPD. And then there's several ways to use Mullein. One of them is, making the tea, but using more of the Mullein into your water and getting it to boil and then putting a towel tent over and inhaling it for however long you want. And I have in my family, I have a one of us uses this regularly. That's why I learned about it because we need it in our family. And it works every time. It relieves every time. Of course, it's not used regularly as it should be, but when there's times when breathing is difficult or coughing, it starts getting hard or difficult, then using the tent and drinking the tea, if you do those two together, you will definitely feel some relief. And then burning a dried leaf and inhaling the smoke. I have some leaves here. Can you guys see me or no? I'll do it after the PowerPoint. I'll demonstrate how you do the leaf and the inhaling the smoke, but also when I was out in Utah, I was told that if you're out in nature and you happen to have a, asthma attack, you can chew the leaf and that'll give you some comfort, some relief. And then of course you can make a tincture. And tinctures are made with the leaf or the leaf and the flower in this case. And you just fill up a jar and cover it with 80 to 100% alcohol, 80 to 90% alcohol, and then let it sit for a month in the dark. And that's how you create a tincture. This is what we're going to do today. How to make mullein syrup. So this is just a recipe that I wanted to include. And, I shared the benefits of the mullein leaf. I don't have elderberries today. I couldn't find them, but I found an alternative for that. I'm not using the elecampane. And then the cinnamon stick, the cloves, and the ginger. Cinnamon is also another antioxidant. So are the cloves. They're very high in antioxidants. And they both fight inflammation. And the ginger boosts your immune system, among other things. So all of them are very healing. So we're going to include that in this mullein syrup. And this syrup is specifically for your lungs. So you can take tablespoons of it when daily or however, depending on what your condition is. If you have COPD, then maybe you want to take a spoonful a day, or maybe you use it just when you're feeling like your lungs are getting heavy. Or so this is what's on the stove right now. I did the whole first part, number 1. Oh, and number 2. So I put everything in there and I reduce the heat, and it's on a timer. And I believe we have about 10 minutes left for that one. So these are some other things that I learned about using this plant. The flowers are good for skincare, and especially for issues that you might have with your skin, like psoriasis, eczema, acne, or dry skin. So you can make salve and soap using mullein flowers. And usually what you'll do is first, if you're making salve or soap, you want to make an oil that's infused with mullein. And there's several ways to do that. You can go out and harvest a bunch of flowers, and that's later in the summer. And then put them in a jar, and then fill that jar with whatever carrier oil you want to use, like almond oil or olive oil, jojoba, whatever you want to use, whatever your favorite. And then you let that sit in the dark for 3 weeks. Shake it every now and then. Or you can put that oil with your plant in a pot in a double boiler, and then let it heat for like 2 or 3 hours. That's the fast way to pull the medicine out quicker if you need to make a salve or soap right now. So you have that oil and you're going to use that for the salve and you'll use it for the soap. And then for the toner, you just put the flowers in witch hazel, or add some water to that. So, and there's your toner. Let it sit for a while. You gotta let it sit for, let the flowers infuse that witch hazel and water. So I would say a week. Just, shake it up and then strain it out and then use it as a toner for your dry skin. And then, like I said, when you're infusing your oil, you can also use that oil for your ears if you're having earaches or some kind of pain in your ears. And then the roots I learned, and this is the only one I learned. I'm sure there's more that you could do with the roots, but I learned that you can use the roots for incontinence. And so those were some things that I wanted to share with you. And I'm sure many of you have many more uses, because mullein is, I mean, it's an awesome plant. You could use it in a lot of different ways. So I just wanted to share those with you. And that's the end of that. Stop sharing. Well, there. Can you guys see me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I wanted to do was demonstrate how we use it dry in our household. These are some of the these are some of the leaves that I went out and got today, like just an hour ago or a couple hours ago. And so it's amazing that it's already this green. But it's perfect because it's been hot enough over the last 2 or 3 weeks that the medicine is leaving the root and going into the leaves now. So I went out and looked, and I found it by the river. And mullein likes to grow near water or on the side of the road. Usually you could find it on the side of the road. And I noticed traveling through Minnesota, it's all over there. Driving from Rosebud Reservation to Pine Ridge Res, man, you guys got this all over the districts. It's everywhere. There should not be any problems relieving asthma among those communities, because this is everywhere over there. Just from Sharp's Corner to Porcupine, there's fields of it growing. So it's all over. Go out and pick some. But this is how we use it. I mean, this is how I prepare it. I shouldn't say use it. I don't think I'm gonna fire it up. But this is what I do to prepare it for my family. I go out and harvest a leaf, or however many you want, because you keep as many as you need, and you just roll it up. Remind you of your younger years? No. I was really good at it back in my day. Okay. And then you could either use a toothpick, or I'm using a bread tie, or a small rubber band, whatever you got. A ribbon, whatever, a string, and you dry it like that, and then when you need it, just spark it up and hold it for a little bit, blow it out, spark it up, hold it for a little bit, as much as you need. I mean, if you have those issues with your lungs, you will know how much you need. But I find that in my family, it works. it provides relief. So you just roll these up and then have them on hand. Put them in the medicine cabinet with all your other medicine, or somewhere where, where they know your family knows where it is and knows what it's for and knows how to identify it. I mean, when we go out places, my family's like, hey, look, here's Mullein. They know what it looks like now because we use it regularly in our family. So I wanted to share that with you. And so this is what I found. So I went out looking for elderberry, dried elderberry, and of course there's where I live, there's not a lot of variety, and especially for things like that. So I thought, okay, well, we'll just not use it, because Mulleine's still a medicine. All the other, you know, the other three ingredients, these are medicine. So raw honey is a medicine. So I figured, well, we don't need it. We could use it, make it just the way it is. It's going to work regardless. But then I come home and I'm looking through all my, seeing if I have any dried elderberry and all that. And here, look what I found. Check this out, peeps. If you could read it. Oh, you can't. See, Chanhu Lakota owned. Lakota made from Mankato, Minnesota, and it's elderberry infused. Oh, it's backwards. Elderberry infused raw honey. Just what we need. So this is what I'm going to use instead of the dried elderberry because I don't have any. But I lucked out and found this in my cupboard. That's awesome. I don't even know where I got it. So can we switch to my phone? Or wait, I'm gonna just take my whole computer so you guys can see my beautiful kitchen. Hey, no. So this is what I started today, or just a little while ago. Can you see it? There's the mullein leaves, and I got can you even see it? The mullein and the cinnamon and the ginger and the cloves. And they've been cooking for the last 40 minutes. So I'm going to strain that and put it in a jar and add the honey. So according to that recipe, you're supposed to strain it through a fine mesh strainer. So this is what I have. Can you tell how fine that is? It's pretty, I think it'll work okay. I suppose I could use a coffee filter, but like I said, we've been using this, so those little hairs don't bother us. In our favorite kind of jars, right? Wait. Let's do this right. Can you guys see me? Well, not me, but
If you tilt us down just a little. Yeah.
me. There we go. So this is going to be a syrup that you can use anytime you feel like your lungs are feeling heavy or you're having some difficulty breathing, and it has all the medicines in it. So Everything in here is anti-inflammatory. So if there's any inflammation going on in your lungs, plus it's gonna hit those, hit that, that hit your brain and help the receptors receive this medicine. So good one, eh? All right, I'm gonna leave that much because we got to put a whole cup of honey in there, which means I'm gonna use my whole little jar here. This is 8 ounces. Whoa. If you guys can get raw honey, you should do it. Always use raw. Antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, all those things in raw honey. And you can tell if it's raw because look how it gets hard. Can you tell? It's not runny. That's how you could tell it's raw because it's starting to set up. And that's a good thing. Look at how pretty that is. Ooh. And what I do when my grandkids are like, I want candy. Do you have any candy? Of course I don't, but I'll just give them a teaspoon of honey, raw honey. Because they want, if they're craving sweets or whatever, at least they're getting some medicinal value from the honey. And so the other ingredients like the ginger and the cinnamon and the cloves. Ginger is good for nausea. It's good for morning sickness. It's good for anxiety. So if you can get your hands on ginger candy, you should get some, especially for if you have young people in your house who are, tend to having anxiety. They could just carry that candy around with them and eat it when they're feeling anxious. It's also good for menstrual cramps, but those are other. I'm just sharing the other uses, the other medicinal advantages of using ginger. Oh, look at that. And voila, how easy is that? Whoa, we used up that honey in a hurry. I found some honey that had osha root in it even. And osha root is a antibiotic, or what is it? Antibiotic, yeah. So the plants have everything we need. We just need to use them. I mean, that's what they were there for, right? They're there to take care of us. And all this plant knowledge that we're relearning is important to pass on because it gives us that security of taking care of our lives, our own lives. And our young people have something to be proud of, that our people knew have this knowledge. Woohoo! Okay, I'm gonna let that cool and then cover it and store it in the fridge for 2 months. Hopefully it's used up by then. So there we go. This is a Mullein lung syrup. You could take a teaspoon, couple tablespoons of that or spoonfuls, and then smoke some mullein, make a tea, do it all up. Get some relief for your lungs. And the thing about using these plants is remembering that we come from the same place, and we're taught that through our spirituality. And in our history, we were we lived in a spiritual manner, meaning everything that we used, everything that we were connected to was given to us by the natural world. And the indication of that among native tribal populations is our names. You could go anywhere where there's still tribal people living accordingly, and they'll have names that reflect animals or birds or some kind of plant, some kind of natural being from the natural world. And so when you live in that way, then your connection to the natural world is obviously stronger, and your relationship with your plant life is refined. And so if we go out and do, harvest every year, and we're taking our young people with us, then they're getting the benefit of, first of all, being in nature, which is healing in itself, but also learning our relationships with the plants gives us that feeling of connectedness, but also security, because you know what to do if you're feeling sick. You know where to go to find those plants. And like my grandchildren, they know how to identify like wild onions and nettle and mullein, and of course tinsila and choke cherries, all those ones. But they feel good about it because they know something when they're out in nature. They know it's not just being outside. When you have that information, you're actually seeing what's out there and what's beneficial to us out there. So relearning this stuff is really empowering for all of us, and we're not dependent on the larger society around us. We're not dependent on someone else to give us healing or give us what we need when we could go outside and do it. And this, you can actually order the seeds, and then grow it in your garden. I was walking through a town this was a while back, and it was in town, so the yards are manicured and taken care of, and the gardens aren't vegetable gardens, they're flower gardens like that. And here one of the neighbors was growing mullein, and she was really taking good care of it too. And I just happened to walk by when she was outside, and I got all excited, and I was like, wow, this is great. You're growing mullein, and right here in the middle of this city, and she said, oh yeah, it's a pretty plant, and she's kind of looking at me, and I said, this is medicinal, right? You can use this for blah 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 blah. She was just looking at me like me, okay, all right. But you could put it in your medicinal garden, so you don't have to go out and leave town to find this. Grow it. Grow it in your garden. So there's a few more things I wanted to share with you on how I use Mullein. In my PowerPoint, I had a picture of a mullein root, and that's something that I harvested in the last fall. And because I'm an unchi now, my grandmother, I danced fancy shawl most of my life. I've been a runner, very active, all that. So I need help. So what I did was I harvested that root, I cut it, cleaned it, washed it, cut it up, dried it, and then put it in my coffee grinder and ground it. And I use this, and you could get these at any health food store, these things where you can make your own capsules. And that's what I did. So these are mullein. Wait, let me get up closer. These are mullein root capsules that I made because I need that. I need to deal with, incontinence sucks when you get old. But it works. It works. I've used it many times because as a dancer, you need the extra help. So I've actually used these before, and you take 2 capsules 3 times a day for 3 months. So you need about 30 roots to make enough to last that long. And you can only get it in the fall. And usually you get it after the first fall's winter or snowstorm. And that means it gets cold enough where it snows, but after that, it warms back up again. Because when that happens, then the plant starts pulling its energy out of the leaves above ground and starts bringing it back into the root. So that's when you go out and after that. You don't want to wait too long though. Don't wait until the middle of winter or something. I mean, I suppose you could, because the medicine's gonna be in there. But so I did that. And it actually worked after those 3 months. It worked for 4 years. No lie. It helped me out for 4 years. And so I'm doing it again. It's time to do it again. And that wasn't just the last 4 years ago. That was probably 10 years ago, maybe 15 years, 10, yeah, that I did that. And so it actually works. And I'm really glad I learned about it because, with modern medicine, they tell you, well, we could fix that or we could relieve that, but you have to be on these meds the rest of your life, that kind of thing. And that I don't care for that. So that's what I did. I made myself some magic pills. Okay, I think that's it.